Miami has had an unbelievable postseason run, and they made it to the national championship game, but they're going up against a buzzsaw. Here's how the Hurricanes can win.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I mean, the Hoosiers are beating everybody by 36 points in the playoffs. It's unreal. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On ACC your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com before the final game to get your college football playoff profit boosts on every game day. He is Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive lineman and co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes. I had an eventful ACC basketball weekend, but it is still football season in the ACC. Haven't had to say that this late into January in quite a while since the Clemson Tigers were still on top of their game. I want to talk about which ACC football teams will be good next year, but Kenton Gibbs, let's talk Miami versus Indiana because we're looking at Miami as 7.5-point underdogs on FanDuel, 8.5-point underdogs in some places. Indiana so far, they had a couple of close games in the regular season and in the Big Ten championship game, but in the playoffs, they have not been tested to this point. Can Miami be the team to test them?
Miami can absolutely be the team to test them, and this is why. They're playing with Church's money, everybody. They're playing with the house's money. Everybody keeps saying, especially one Jackson Hosier, keeps saying, there's no such thing as house money at this point in time. Complete and utter malarkey. This is a team that is statistically as dominant, darn near, as the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers in terms of difference in ratio against top 10 and top 15 teams. No team has done this in quite some time, right? Even if we're talking about that 2019 LSU team, that's another team that was blowing teams out by these proportions. Those are the only teams in recent history since the helmets were hard to blow teams out by this much, right? So you're coming into this game, and the books may say 7.5 and 8.5, but the sentiment around America is Miami has no shot. Yeah. The sentiment around America is Michael Irvin, wear sweatpants to the game because you ain't going to have to take the belt off after this. The sentiment around the nation is that what SIG is doing is so statistically dominant, so statistically anomalous, it cannot be done through legal means. That is the narrative surrounding Indiana.
I've been helping spread those rumors, by the way. Indiana fans are very angry at me.
Knock it off, Donno. Knock it off. Line it up and do what you do, okay? I don't believe Indiana's doing anything.
No, I honestly I don't believe it either. I just, I may have shared a tweet and said, oh, this is interesting, but I don't believe it.
Hey, listen, everybody's trolling nowadays. I ain't mad at you for getting in on it, Donno. But this is a game in which Miami has a shot simply because it's not just about how dominant they've been in the trenches. It's about the stylistic matchups. Very few teams in America slant and stunt and twist as much as Indiana. And they do it well. They do it extremely well. Let's make no bones about it. They do that very well. Offensive line-wise, they have been undersized against almost every defense. And regardless of what you think about Indiana looking like they know people's plays defensively, offensively, no such thing can exist. You cannot, at the same clip and same level, determine what a defense is going to do because defenses are reacting to you. And yet and still, that undersized offensive line with no NFL talent is whooping the wheels off people. So ultimately, when you look at what Miami's offensive line and defensive line can do, if there's anybody that's a twist stopper, if there's anybody that you say, oh, yeah, we're gonna just stun around this guy, big old CC and them dancers feet that he got, go for it. Yeah. Go for it. He's going to throw somebody out the club like Michael Orr. Defensive line-wise, Indiana is not a super upbeat, up-tempo team. They're based on precision and getting it done and executing in their RPO reads and whatnot. But you know what RPO reads create? long meshes. You know what a long mesh creates? Time for Rueben and Mesidor to reestablish that line of scrimmage and rush the passer. So stylistically, this is actually a very good matchup for Miami. This is a matchup where if you play your A-plus game and you catch Indiana, because while people act like Indiana is an undefeated god king like Xerxes, we've seen Xerxes bleed everybody. We saw a Penn State team without a head coach take them down to the wire. We've seen that happen. So I'm not saying that Miami is the favorite or should be favored. I'm not saying wrong team favorite. I think that Indiana is rightfully favored. But people acting like Miami might as well not show up. I mean, come on now. For crying out loud, this is a great, great Miami team that has proven it time and time again. When you give them the opportunity to line it up, everybody that's not in the ACC, they struggle with Miami.
Yeah, and so Fernando Mendoza, and it's like I can't criticize the guy. I mean, he's played great. He won the Heisman Trophy, but I will say, because you talk about stylistically, right? Fernando Mendoza this season has held the football for an average of 3.03 seconds, right? Miami, just went up against Trinidad Chambliss, who only holds it for 2.48 seconds. And nobody has done a better job than Miami of creating pressure and sacks in under 2.5 seconds. So statistically, and again, we'll see what kind of adjustments Indiana makes offensively, but holding the football for over 3 seconds is not a recipe against Miami's pass rush. Like, that needs to be adjusted, right? So that's one line of scrimmage, Miami's defensive line. Now, Miami's offensive line, Kenton, who has been one of the more effective units in the country, you want to know the average size of Miami's O-line against Indiana's D-line? As effective as Indiana's D-line has been, their average weight on the defensive front is 278 pounds. Miami's average weight on the offensive line is 331 pounds, right? Mass kicks, Mario Cristobal likes to say. So it's like, again, like Indiana has been incredibly effective, and all their players are 23, 24 years old. They're like, there is experience as some NFL teams. Like, they're almost older than the Green Bay Packers. But again, you talk about stylistically, there are certain areas where Miami matches up well, specifically on the lines of scrimmage, and that's why you play the games, right? Miami was nearly a double-digit underdog against Ohio State. You lined it up, Miami won. There's a reason why this game is going to be played. I wouldn't say like you, and obviously I cover Miami, so people can talk about my biases or whatever, but I absolutely think there are scenarios where Miami can win, but I agree with you, the right team is favored.
Yeah, and I think that there is a way that America right now is disrespecting Miami. That, I mean, again, like I've talked about before, every coach loves the underdog narrative. Every coach loves when they get to do it. Dan Lanning was playing a team that was one win the year before, literally one win the year before, and said they're playing for clicks, as if his Oregon team that had won double-digit games for about the last 5 years was like, oh, God, who's going to win? Who's the better team here? So coaches love it. Nolan, I believe it's Nolan Smith, former Georgia player, when they won the national championship, said, y'all said that we were a 7-5 team about Georgia, who was repeating as national champion. So that's right. Coaches and players alike love the underdog narrative. And how do you think that mountain of men that Miami calls an offensive line is feeling about the fact that people keep talking about how effective Indiana is and their EPA per play is through the roof, and statistically they run the ball better than Miami? Well, who's been better at running the ball than Mark Fletcher in these playoffs? Who?
Nobody in the playoffs.
Oh, okay. All right. So ultimately, Mario Cristobal can walk in and say that nobody believes in you. Nobody thinks that you all can do this. Nobody outside of the confines of this locker room is going to be. And Indiana, which everybody is just finding out, shocker, it's a public school. It lets in a lot of people because it's public. 90,000 students, they're going to travel well. Even though this is in essence a home game for Miami, let's be very real about this. Indiana has a fan base that has never in their lifetime seen Indiana be a 10-win team, let alone this type of success. This is unheard of, through the roof. We're going to act out and show out. So ultimately, again, Miami and Cristobal have the perfect narrative for nobody believes in you. Nobody thinks you can do it. And the beauty in Miami's game is you win Miami football by making it ugly, nasty, slow, slugfest. You win by making Mendoza sit down for 8 to 10 minutes at a time minimum. You win by saying we don't need to out-athlete you 1-for-1 across the board. We're just going to line up some big, ugly dudes and tell our big, ugly dudes to push your slightly smaller and slightly less ugly dudes around.
Now, when we come back, I want to share a couple of updates about Miami's injury situation because they had a slugfest against Ole Miss. Indiana beat Oregon by like 150 points, so they came out of their semifinal game a little bit healthier. But Mario Cristobal did share some injury updates on Monday. You want to keep it locked right here. We'll also talk about who's going to be good in football next season. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, the college football playoffs are here. In fact, they're almost coming to an end. One more huge game. And FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them right there in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. If you're riding Indiana, ride with the favorite when you think that they're going to control the matchup, or take a shot on Miami as the underdog if you feel like an upset is coming. Or you could build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. If you're bullish on Mark Fletcher like Kenton is, you're bullish on Malachi Toney, you can build your parlays around these guys, and then you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for college football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long, so visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost for this final game day. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. And for the everydayers, you want to join the Everydayer Club. You get exclusive ad-free versions of our episodes for this and all the great Locked On shows if you sign up for their Everydayer Club, and you get Discord access as well. So check out lockedonacc.supercast.com. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. All right, so got mostly good news so far a week away from the game from Miami. So Akheem Mesidor got banged up against Ole Miss. It's like you need Mesidor, right? You need Mesidor to play alongside Rueben Bain, and Mario Cristobal says that Akheem Mesidor is in great condition. He did return to the Ole Miss game, so you had a feeling he'd be good to go. Miami has also had an injury issue for defensive tackle Ahmad Moten, who was in and out of the game. He's been dealing with an ankle. Cristobal said that he's full throttle. O.J. Frederic, one of Miami's starting corners who didn't play for the second half against Ole Miss, Cristobal said he's good to go. Another important corner who's missed the entire playoffs so far, Damari Brown. Cristobal says he's day-to-day. And, Kenton, here's why it's so important to get these corners into the game, because Xavier Lucas, who's one of Miami's starting cornerbacks, he picked up what I thought was a very questionable targeting penalty late in that Ole Miss. Like, they don't let him play football anymore, KG. So Lucas is going to be suspended for the first half against Indiana. So, I mean, that's Mendoza, I'm sure, is going to be targeting Ethan O'Connor and whoever else is in the game for Lucas, because he's not going to be able to play for the first half.
I'm going to tell you something, man. We got to change these targeting rules, because this is – you're a half against Indiana, having a star.
The national championship game, you have to miss a half.
Exactly. Having a star on the outside, the perimeter against them. Oh, boy. Surratt and company. I know they're licking their chops seeing that. Yeah. So, ultimately, I think that the injury situation for Miami, it is a little bit touchy, especially because we know Mario Cristobal plays it like it's Fort Knox around there, okay? You never know who's in and who's out and what's actually going on in terms of injury. But with that in mind, what I'm looking at here as the biggest area of concern is obviously the defensive backfield, and in terms of what they are not going to be able to do. I'm sure that an appeal can be filed for the targeting, but I mean, I don't know. We've seen that those appeals generally don't work out well.
I've never heard of a successful appeal in terms of like getting like a targeting. Maybe there's been certain, like if like a drug test or something, if you get new evidence, maybe that. But I've never heard of a targeting appeal getting being successful to get a suspension overturned.
And you know what? At least the NCAA is hearing people out on those, which is a step in the right direction. But you're right. I haven't seen one overturned. But if there was one, I think this would be the most meaningful moment, because what do you want a defender to do in a situation where a receiver is changing his plane of where his body is in that split second of a moment? But OJ Frederick has been dominant from day one on this campus. Like, even when the secondary was god awful and the simple yo-yo motion would send them into the fritz, he was a guy that you could count on saying, hey, I got this guy in front of me, or I got this zone. Don't worry about it, coach. This zone's done for. It's over with. So to potentially miss him and Xavier Lucas and some more guys in terms of Brown on that court, it's like, how much can you take? How much? Weatherman has been a magician. And granted, a magician that's been aided by some fantastic assistants in terms of Mesidor and Bain and the linebacker. The name's escaping me right now.
Mo Touré and Wesley Bassane.
Bassane is the one I was referencing. Bassane, they've been wizards in the playoff, but ultimately you're going to need these guys healthy. And I'm gonna tell you, Mesidor, as a guy that we saw him in the game and we saw him be effective against Ole Miss when he came back. So that's got to be very exciting for ACC fans, for Miami fans, because I'm going to tell you, the key and the only way, I've said this the entire playoff, and Miami has proved me right the entire playoff. The only way that Miami beats a lot of these teams is with Mesidor and Bain being not just guys that you win with. They have to be guys you win because of. They have to be force multipliers on the edge that then frees up your guys on the inside as well, which they have been for a majority of these games. I mean, game one against Marcel Reed, I bet he still sees 3 and 4 whenever he wakes up in his nightmare. You know, all the kids are doing 6, 7. He's doing 3, 4. Like, 3, 4. Don't tell me about Walter Payton. This is crazy. You know, so that happened. And then, of course, against Ohio State, very similar situation. Yeah. And even last game, 6 pressures from Rueben Bain. Even if you say, oh, he didn't get home, watch the damn tape and you will see Chambliss scrambling for his life because of it. So those two, they've got to be. Those are the big horses on the defense, and they got to be rolling. They got to be rolling because they'll take you as far as you can go behind them.
So football season is over for all but one ACC team, Miami, Indiana, for the national title. Do you agree, Kenton, with this report card from College Football Zone? So here's the way he framed this. He says how I think ACC fans viewed their season based on results and preseason expectations, where he's got, teams obviously that overachieved: Wake Forest, Duke, who won the ACC, Virginia, and Miami with A's. Mm-hmm. He's got Pitt, SMU, Louisville, and Georgia Tech with B's, Cal and NC State with C's, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and Stanford on D's, and Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech with F's. I think first thing you and I would change there is, I know like Virginia Tech didn't have a good season on the field, but I don't think their fans even are thinking about how many games they won last year. They're thinking about James Franklin and all the excitement that he's bringing to the table. So I don't know if they're still thinking F or if they just like throw that grade out because it's about the present and future now, not the past for them.
It absolutely is for Virginia Tech. And this is what makes it so interesting for me. If you say, okay, we weigh it only by what happened during the season, therefore Virginia Tech gets an F, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But you're saying based on expectations preseason, Clemson, a team that everybody saw as, hey, this is going to be the first ever 16-0, 12-team playoff, undefeated team. They lost in the bowl game to a team with no head coach. What was their record this year? 7-6 or something along those lines? Like, they were not. This was, Dabo said, oh, if our down year is 10 wins, well, I'll take plenty of that. It got worse, Dabo. Yeah. It got worse. This isn't a situation where we sat here and said, oh, this is their worst season ever, and it can't possibly get worse, because guess what? Unfortunately for Dabo, it can, and it did. And the team that we thought was going to be potentially 16-0, 15-1, maybe 14-2, goes 7-6, and we're going to say that's not terrible. And Florida State,
that one should be an F.
Yeah. How do they escape? I get it. You beat Bama. Hey, I get it. Congratulations. You beat a playoff team. They should have never been in the playoffs. Okay, they should have never been there. So I think those two teams getting D's instead of F's, pretty interesting. But the rest of this, I would agree with. I would really agree with. I mean, Donno, we talked about this pre-show. I was looking at SMU like, it seems a little C-ish. I'm smelling a little C, but when you look at the overarching theme of how their season went, the out of conference was rough, no doubt about that.
Sure.
But in conference, they were one game away, final game of the season, from going to a conference championship. It just didn't,
and they beat Miami this year. So if Miami wins a national championship, they'll be able to say they beat the champs.
Exactly. I mean, at minimum, you could say we beat the runners up. So I think that it's definitely a B for them. And I think
do you agree with NC State? See,
I might move NC State up. NC State up. Again,
I thought maybe
based on expectations, right? This was a season that many NC State fans came into like, hey, we're not going to be good this year. This is going to be a 5 to 6 win year. I actually predicted before the season that NC State will win 5 or less or 8 or more. I knew that this was not going to be a 6 or 7 win team. Thank God for the bowl game. They came out and finally won a bowl game for the first time in like 5 or 6 years under Dorn. And so I think NC State will move up to a B for me. But the rest of these teams, and, I think Cal falls in the same position as Virginia Tech to where if you're only weighing the season, it makes sense for them to get a C. But if you say they keep a team out of the ACC championship last week of the season and they get a slam dunk hire as their next head coach who has done fantastic things in a portal already, and I believe he's kept JKS.
He has,
What more can you ask for
if
you're a Cal fan? I mean, I know Lawrence has hit me up multiple times since the season ended. Like, we got our guy. We got him. So, I believe the Cal algorithm is hyped up and geeked up about that. So
Lawrence, I think Lawrence even said to me, he's cheering for Miami. He's got the conference pride. Not everybody can say that, right? We're not like the SEC where we cape up for all the other teams. Like,
Listen, we need to be. I'm rooting for Miami, okay? I'm pulling for Miami. Losing this game does absolutely nothing good for me. I need Miami to at least keep it competitive. I mean, my Rueben Bain to Detroit agenda has blown up. It's exploded during the playoffs. Yeah. It's exploded. He's not making it past pick number 6 or 7, which hurts my heart. But don't worry, I will still be making a bunch of anti-Rueben Bain propaganda to get him to fall to my Lions, calling his arms too short.
You're going to end up in that notebook of his. He's going to be coming for
you. Hey, long as he see me at a Lions game and he's wearing the Honolulu blue, I'm all right. But in all seriousness, I think that whoever put that list together did a fantastic job. I really do. I think that for the most part, they were spot on with most of those teams.
Yeah, I think so too. So I want to get to when we come back, who's going to be good next year. And also, I'm proud of Kenton's NC State Wolfpack hoops team and Will Wade. They put a historic beatdown on Florida State. My Hurricanes are 3-0 in ACC play. Duke gets a ranked win against SMU. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, the new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. And that's what I love. I love that I can find pieces that match my style and, most importantly, my wife's style without spending a fortune. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It honestly made getting back into a routine this new year feel a lot more manageable. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone co-host Locked On Wolfpack, talking all things NC State. I talk all things Miami, talking all things CFP on Locked On Canes. All right, so Kenton, I think that there's a reasonable expectation Miami should be really good again next year. Although I'd like to know who's going to be quarterbacking the team next year, whether it's someone in house like Emory Williams or Luke Nickel, or if Miami's able to like pull Ty Simpson out of the NFL draft, because Miami missed on Sam Levitt today. Sam Levitt is going to LSU. But still, I think Miami's floor is really high, even if they don't get like their top quarterback choice. I think the quarterback could decide the ceiling. How quickly do you think Virginia Tech could potentially get themselves in the ACC championship picture year one under James Franklin? Because based on the vibes of who they're bringing in there, it kind of feels like they can get themselves into the mix pretty quickly.
Well, it's the same thing we said about SMU, right? We said SMU year one, they can upset the apple cart, but they probably shouldn't be there. And then year one, where were they? Right there.
Right
in
there.
The ACC championship. So ultimately, can Virginia Tech find themselves in an ACC championship game? Absolutely. Absolutely. Clemson has fallen off a cliff. We don't know what's going on with Clemson. This is the worst we have seen Clemson in quite some time. And here's the part that's really crazy, Donno. Can you name me an injury to a player of significance from Clemson that made this make sense?
I mean, did Klubnik miss a game, I think?
Okay, one game.
Yeah.
And that accounts for 6 losses, including a bowl game loss to a team.
It does not.
Including a bowl game loss to a team who their top 2 running backs sat out. Their quarterback was already done for the year. Their head coach was fired 8 weeks ago.
Yeah,
just about.
Yeah, that's not good. And the other ironic thing about that game, matching up against Penn State, a lot of people had that as their national championship game preseason. So they did meet in postseason, just not the game you thought.
Not quite. The Pinstripe
not the
Bowl
coaches
was not.
You thought.
It was exactly. And so ultimately, who would you say is going to keep Virginia Tech out? Who would you say definitively, hey, this team has the chops to keep that team out? And I want you to think about this. All the teams that you would say can keep them out, I think almost all of them have very big questions at quarterback, except SMU. I think SMU is the only team.
And Mensa's back. Mensa's back next year with Duke.
And you think Duke is in the upper echelon of teams?
They just won the conference.
They're the conference champions. They're the conference champions. I will not deny that.
Yeah.
However, we all know they got there on a tiebreak that is fundamentally so flawed and
a tiebreak that will not exist next year because they're changing it.
And again, this is no shade to Mensa. I think he's fantastic. But even if we say, okay, Duke is in that conversation as well, that's 2 teams. When you think of a conference championship game picture, unless those 2 teams are juggernauts to where you're like, hey, we're going to see 2 16-0 or 13-0 teams like Michigan and Ohio State were a couple years ago, where like these 2 this is it. Nobody else in the Big Ten really matters. These 2 are here. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we have that in this conference. So can Virginia Tech creep themselves in? Can they tiptoe through the back door on the way into an ACC championship? I absolutely believe they can. It's incumbent upon the rest of the teams in the ACC to stop that from happening. And I don't want to put it on NC State because every time you call them a dark horse, they're just dark. They just can't see nothing. They just keep bumping into stuff every time. So I'm going to label them as awful till they do something that makes me
I'm really happy. Like, I'm happy for you guys that CJ Bailey is back. But it's like it seems like all of his offensive teammates have left, though. It seems like a lot of guys have left in the portal.
You know, I am shocked by some of the departures in the portal because I thought that Hollywood was going to be a NFL back come next year, and turns out he'll be playing for the Crimson Tide next year, which is, less than ideal, but more power to the young man wherever he goes. Terrell Anderson, I think, was a really, really big loss, not only from a receiving standpoint, but he was also the punt returner one. And anybody who watched NC State last year, their special teams, it was special, all right, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. So the amount of buff punts and whatnot we had, we're going to need somebody. And granted, Victor Snow from Buffalo, he seems like a perfect fit as he's been a return ace while at Buffalo and Nevada. So that works out well there. And then the other guy who left, of course, Noah Rogers and Justin Jolie going to the NFL as well. Yeah. You're looking at a lot of production, a lot of targets leaving, a lot of touchdowns leaving. But at the end of the day, that's why I said I don't want to label them as a dark horse. I don't want to put any expectations on this team because every time you put expectations on them, every time you get to believing in NC State, they said, oh, really now? You want to believe in us? Watch this. So ultimately, we're just here for the vibes. We're just here to have fun. One of y'all other teams, go ahead and keep Virginia Tech out. But we're not going to be responsible for doing it.
Well, I want to remind CJ Bailey, the portal doesn't close till January 16th.
Hey, he's tempering. He's a temperer. We've got to temper everybody.
I'm just saying, like the portal does not close until January 16th. And Miami's academic deadlines, just in case he's from the area, he may have like a friend or no, but I'm just saying, like he may have a friend or a relative who's interested in enrolling, and the deadline to enroll for the spring semester is not until January 21st. So just pass it along to your friends.
We already have multiple Chaminade Madonna alums on NC State's roster, thanks to CJ.
Yeah,
in
true.
the portal,
I mean,
including one from Miami.
Door for them all.
Exactly, including from Miami. So while you're
right.
sitting here thinking you're poaching us, he's a double agent. You thought he was on campus to see and scout out how things work. He was stealing your players from the inside. Don't worry. Yes,
he's the one tampering, not me.
Exactly.
I'm just throwing out informative dates. Like I want all Locked On ACC listeners to know the portal does not close for entry until January 16th.
It doesn't. And CC Martineau is probably going to the NFL. And Mark Fletcher, if you want some freshman All-American to run behind, we've got some at NC State with Spike Solskjaer. But Donno and I don't temper like that.
No,
we would do no such thing as poach from each other's teams. We got an agreement here. We've got a very antitrust agreement going on here that we won't poach from each other's teams. But no, seriously, I think the next year should be very exciting in the ACC. I think the level of play is rising everywhere. And even Duke and all their shortcomings last year, like you said, they won the ACC championship. Yeah. So you know what that does for the recruiting pitch? You can say, hey, regardless of what you saw last year, regardless of losing to Tulane, regardless of losing this team, that team, there was only one team that was an ACC champion last year. Yeah. The team that's playing in the national championship couldn't accomplish what we did. Huh?
That's right.
How about it?
That's true.
How about it? Come on to Durham if you want to win you a championship and get you one of the finest degrees in the land. Come on over to Durham.
That's right. Well, all right. We'll talk basketball another day because it's just weird. Like mid-January, we're still talking ACC football. We haven't done this in a while. Huge shout out to Kenton Gibbs. Make sure you follow him on X at TGIF_Kenton and check him out on Locked On Wolfpack. Follow me at Alex Donno. Check me out on Locked On Canes. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.